Let's all stand. Good morning, everybody. Thank you for coming today. Appreciate it. Those of you who are logging on, welcome. Am I going to separate you too? You can be able to listen to me preach this morning.
Yeah. Always.
We had a rough night last night. And he didn't see me in my finest moment. I said, look, if you want to sit tomorrow morning out, I understand. That he's here. But he actually played me some good worship music on the way in, so maybe I'll get saved. But it's going to take an intercessors group this morning. So if you hey, bud. Hello, hello, hello. And for any of the rest of you that might have, it might have been a little challenge to get here today. Good for you. You chose the good part. Why were they closed?
They were picking up orange barrels. Oh, lovely.
How did you make it? You just ran the barrels down? Wow. 4 lanes closed. Yowza.
I saw them too.
Oh, because you come up that way too. So you come up 75 to. Oh, okay. 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 We're here. Shake off bad mojo if you had any. It's going to take a lot of shaking. I think I'm going to, huh? I'm going to have to twerk and shake. I don't think that's going to do it.
It's working.
It's good. Remember they had, I don't even know what these would have done for you, but you remember back in the day when gyms had those things, you'd stand on, there was like a belt around you, and it would, what was that supposed to do?
Weight loss.
Yeah, but how would that make you lose weight just to jiggle you? Well, I need one of those this morning. I think it would be distracting if I preach on it. All right. Our God is a very present help in time of trouble. When my heart is overwhelmed, lead me to the rock that is higher than I am. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I fear no evil. For you are with me, and your rod and your staff comfort me. You prepare a table before me in the presence of my enemies. You anoint my head with oil, my cup runs over, and surely goodness and mercy will follow me all the days of my life, and I will dwell in the house of the Lord forever. Somebody tell me why you're here this morning.
Me too. Just the good energy that's coming today. It is coming.
You are a man of faith, BJ. No, thank you. I received that, and I meet you at your point of faith. Somebody else, why are you here this morning?
It's been a crazy week for me too, so I need this. I need
Good. Hey, bud. How'd your procedure go?
Yeah, good so far. Good.
Does it seem to have worked?
So far.
Cool.
Good.
Good. Hey, come in. Welcome. Somebody else, why are you here this morning? Glad to have Tondi with us today. With her, got your hair did. You look cute. Somebody else, what you here for? Joe, it's good to see you.
I'm saying the same thing that BJ said. I need this.
Me too.
All right. All right, well then let's make it happen. Michelle, I'm sure you got a good screen, but I'm not going to do the prayer today. Let's just be here. Let's just be present. Be aware of God's presence. Be aware of the beautiful people in this room who are clearly in covenant. It's an awesome thing. Don't ever take it for granted. Two are better than one. The threefold cord is not easily broken. Just going to be silent for a minute, get centered. I'm not going to do a official meditation. Let's just be here. Let's get in this space. Amen. Somebody got good news you want to share? Anything good thing happened to you this week?
I had a photo shoot last night, actually, and it was, it was one of those things that you kind of like, I don't really feel this. But after I got there, it was a teenager
Y'all can sit down.
who just graduated, and the grandmother was throwing a party for him. She gave me the information on him. Both of his parents had passed away, and he's graduating. He got accepted to like Georgia State. It was beautiful. His girlfriend is blind. I mean, he's just a really cool, just really good kid. Just kind of quiet and shy. And the grandmother was like, well, he doesn't ask a lot, so I wanted to do this for him. So it was just beautiful to see somebody that young and that centered and that, seeing him and his girlfriend, that really said a lot to me. Of
Wow.
the kind of person that he is. So I was like, yeah, I feel really good here. And it was really cool because I had never passed out so many business cards because everyone, I was videoing and doing my thing, and they're like, oh, I need your card. I need your card. I need your card.
Cool.
It was very good.
So more good things will come out of that good thing. That's good. I like that. Anybody else? Got some good news?
I do. We
Ave?
have spent 1 year renovating my dad's house, and I believe that this afternoon we'll actually sign the lease. We will actually sign it.
Oh, cool. Good. For those of you who don't know, Ernie and Avery live out a little past Madison. And it's her family's property. It's ancient, and it's a long story, but they have a lot to take care of. We were looking at, there's a thing on HGTV that we're obsessed with. It's this couple that she inherited her grandfather's chateau in Paris, and they're having to renovate. They do wedding venues there, but they're having to renovate this medieval castle. And it's incredible what they do, but I'm looking at, it's basically the two of them, and it's on 130 acres. And you see, he's out there on a riding mower, and I thought, boy, that puts my lawn in perspective. I can't imagine. It's just dealing with a 50-year-old house. I can't imagine what it's like to deal with something that was built in, whenever that was. But that's a lot. Anybody else got any good news? Any good thing happened? Tricia?
Yeah, I posted on Facebook, so a lot of you already know this, but my results from my PET scan that I had this past week show a near complete metabolic response, which means it's working.
That's
The treatment's working. So my oncologist was ecstatic when he called it. So
I'm super proud of Tricia. Her journey's interesting to me. I mean, I'm moved with compassion, but I'm also interested in watching her go through the process. And she's not out of the woods yet, but that's a really good report. When I first called her, she said, if you don't mind, I said, what was your result? She said it was a mixed bag. And then after she told me, I said, well, it's not a 50-50. I mean, there's, like, most of the stuff in that bag is good, and that's what you have to concentrate on. But that's good. Thanks for sharing that. Somebody else? Got some good news?
I won a photo contest this week with Kyle Morgan.
He does. The guy that does most of those pictures that we post of, especially Jekyll Island and Driftwood Beach, the guy's incredible. And Ken's a major fan of his. And he entered this raffle thing where you get any one of his works. I guess they blows it up on a canvas or whatever. It's like a $400 value. And Ken wants, so now he can't decide which thing he wants. And we keep arguing over, he wants to put it over the bed. I'm like, it's too high. That headboard is too high. It's going to be, so that's really what happened last night. We just fought about that. Till the neighbors had to call us and said, no, that's not what we were fighting over. Huh?
We speak peace to you.
Thank you. Well, I'm just taking a minute because, back in the day I would have said, wow, I'm really being tested in this word. Let me just say this. What I'm teaching on today is the height of irony. Because the point is about not letting other people bother you and staying in your own lane. And as Paul wrote to one of the churches, I am the chiefest of sinners among you. Because, I don't know if you had to convince anybody in your world that Elon Musk was not sending them a car. And everything that you know about, it's like, comfort the feeble-minded, but it just spiraled downward for there. And the day started off so good. It was like a good day. It was sunshine, and then we had margaritas, and then that devil came in. So why would Elon Musk be... Anyway, I shouldn't have even referred to it. It's all good. I did tell Ken this morning, I said, you look really cute this morning. You look like you find a young boyfriend that isn't going to force you to live with his mother. It's over for me, but go save yourselves. Okay. Our outreach this month is somebody. I don't know. Who are we reaching out to? Oh, yeah, the United Way. Hey, y'all. We're reaching out to United Way's office. What? We're sending them money. What else do they want? And then our meditation weekend is August 2nd and 3rd. Where we go? Oh, St. Simon's. All right. Let's do it. I can do this. The gifts and callings of God are without repentance. The Spirit of the Lord God is upon me. Welcome to the Metron Live podcast, coming to you from the Atlanta Theater. Metron people, would you please welcome the podcast people? As always, we appreciate Charles McFall, the rock god of podcasting, who continues to make this possible for us. speak into the atmosphere, and say, "Let there be light." Last week, I wasn't sure if I was going to go with a series. I feel like I've said everything I wanted to say about that last week, and I'm believing this is a word for today. And thank you, Ed. If we're in Knoxville, I appreciate it. Love you. Love you back. I'm not losing my mind. I just like, oh my God, he's talking to invisible people. So this is what I'm going to talk about today. Here's my title: Setting Yourself Free, Living Your Best Life by Opting Out of the Law of Judgment. I'm going to start with a passage. This is the part of Matthew chapter 7. It's all part of the Sermon on the Mount. What is it? Chapter 5, 6, and 7. All that's Sermon on the Mount. This is verse 1 through 5. I'm going to show it to you out of Matthew in the Now. Available at jimswilleybooks.com and on amazon.com. But this is where in the King James it says, "Judge not, lest you be judged." And it's an interesting concept that I think probably is affecting our lives more than we realize. And let me give you this disclaimer, because I'm going to be talking a lot about sort of the live and let live concept and that sort of thing. I don't think you would misunderstand this, but please know that I do respect boundaries. I think people should have boundaries. And when I say let people be who they are, I'm not implying that you should be anybody's doormat. I want you to understand that. What I'm talking about is not being so preoccupied with what somebody else is doing that you self-sabotage, okay? I think when people don't rightly divide the scriptures, they can sort of suggest that you should just take abuse, and I don't think that's right. I don't know if you've ever had anybody do this to you, like do something that really triggered you and caused you to respond in a very human way, and then they come back with something like, "I thought you were a Christian." And I really hate when people play that card, because I'm also aware of the Jesus who just did not discuss it. He formed a weapon and ran people out of a temple, and it was there. I mean, their places were like, we went to Atlantic Station yesterday for lunch, and they've got little tents set up everywhere where there's like people selling everything from candles to homemade jewelry. It was that kind of thing. It was like a bazaar that was there and it wasn't just in church. I mean, the temple had like a place where, like most churches have bookstores now. It wasn't that unusual. It wasn't like they were set up in the Holy of Holies. It's just Jesus didn't like it, and he freaked out. He freaked out on them so much that's when Jesus said, "Who is my mother and brother?" It was in response to his family, his half brothers and half sisters did an intervention. They got together and they said, "He's lost his mind," and they got Mary. This is what's really scary. They got Mary on board with it. Remember, because it says he was teaching, and somebody interrupted him and said, "Your mother and brethren are outside," and he thought, I'm not doing that. I mean, isn't that kind of surprising? I mean, wouldn't you think Mary would have said, "No, y'all don't understand. He's the Messiah"? And she's like, "I don't know. Maybe he is crazy." I mean, if you heard that your child, your adult child, had gone in and it would be the modern equivalent of just going and shooting up a place. Yeah. I mean, he didn't kill anybody, but you would be incarcerated for doing that if you went in and not just beat up on people, but did damage. I mean, that was their They're pop-up stores. And he's just like, oh, no, you're not. And I mean, can you imagine if you were a merchant that you were selling your wares and this guy just comes in, like, who do you think you are? You're not on staff here. And he comes in and turns the tables over. So when people say, oh, you're a Christian, calm down, I'm like, wait, the same Jesus that put a child on his lap and said, become like a child, is also the one that tore up a place.
Yeah.
I mean, he tore it up
Yeah.
to the point. I don't mean he said, I think you guys should pack up and move out. I would think that the officials in the temple would even be offended at that. Like, well, who said you were in charge? And then has the nerve to say, my temple shall be a house of prayer. What do you mean your temple? Who do you think you are? I mean, do you understand what a radical thing it was that Jesus did? I mean, when you really start reading the Gospels, Jesus was a terrible Christian. I mean, he didn't evangelize people. Like, he spent most of his time talking to people who weren't part of the seed of Abraham and didn't even try to convert them. And says things like, to a polytheistic Roman centurion who's got a young boyfriend, Jesus says, greatest faith I found in Israel. I mean, that's pretty out there. Or to a woman caught in adultery, I don't condemn you. I mean, he just said all kind of things that were not what Christians are supposed to say. He says to a woman at the well, the Father's looking for people like you. Excuse me, no, I don't think so. I mean, we were talking about it this morning because, you know, I know Pride Month gets a lot of attention that some people might not understand, you know, why it's a big deal. And even on the way here, Kim was telling me, he said, I don't go here because what's the point? He said, but I'm seeing people I grew up with who I love very much, who are posting the most homophobic things you can imagine. And you think, do you think I'm not reading this? You know, and ludicrous things like his actual point. We were listening to this song, really powerful song about calling on the name of Jesus. It was good. And he said, it sounds like something y'all would have done at church in the now. I said, it totally does. I could completely hear that. And he said, I'm looking at people post things like, instead of us committing an entire month to sin and perversion, why couldn't we commit a month to worshiping God? And like, that's such an asinine thing to say. He says, why do people think I don't worship God? Like, that's insane. I said, you talking about the Jesus that never said a thing about gay people? Nothing. I mean, nothing. Well, they didn't exist then. Oh, yeah, they did. As long as there have been people, about 10% of the population have same-sex attraction. That's always been a reality. It's not a good thing or a bad thing. It's just a thing. And it's not going to change. The world isn't turning more gay or whatever. And like, what's that got to do with Jesus? Because the way people are reinventing Jesus and putting words in his mouth that he not only didn't say, but would have never said clearly. So, having said that, let me show you this. He says, don't set yourself up as a judge who takes the liberty of casually condemning others. And footnote, condemning, I think you know what that means. Of course, there's no condemnation. I'm not going to over-explain that. You know what I mean. Don't set yourself up as a judge who takes the liberty of casually condemning others, or even as a critic who thinks that he or she has the right to criticize them. Because when you do that, you set a universal law into motion that will inevitably bring negative things back into your own life. In other words, don't judge so that you may not be judged and criticized and condemned yourselves, for a direct proportion to your judgment, criticism and condemnation of others, you will be personally judged, criticized, and condemned. It's just the way the law works. And in accordance with the measure you use to deal out to others, whatever you may deal out, it will be dealt out again to you. You define the terms of your own life in this sense. And why do you fixate on the very small particle, the tiny speck of sawdust that is in your brother's eye, while you are completely unaware of and oblivious to the huge beam of timber that is in your own eye? Or how can you obsessively say to your brother, let me try to get that tiny superficial splinter that I'm preoccupied with out of your eye, when all the while there is the beam of timber that is obvious to everyone but you lodged in your own eye? Don't be such a clueless hypocrite. Work on dislodging that beam of timber from your own eye first, because until you can completely remove such glaring personal obstructions, you're frankly not qualified to take on the responsibility of extracting anything at all from your brother's eye, no matter how big or how small. Now, on the heels of that, let me show you. You might have heard of this woman. She's written several books. I've listened to her podcast. Really good. Her most recent book is called Let Them. And it's an interesting, her point in this book is about the people in your life. And this is talking about the people, your family members, people you work with, people that you sort of anticipate their patterns because you know them so well. Instead of just getting so upset over and over again because they're just being who they are, focus instead on your own reactions to them. It's classic judge not, lest you be not judged. But that's why I gave you this, hello, come in. That's why I gave you this disclaimer in the beginning about I'm not suggesting that, you know, if you're in an abusive relationship, do you understand the difference? Like, there are women who are abused by men who make excuses for them and say, oh, you still understand. When he beats me up, he's really sorry lately. I don't think that's what this is talking about. I'm sure I'm over explaining this, but I want to make sure that you know. Maybe you haven't dealt with some of the insanity I've dealt with over the years. Like, for instance, I've told you this story many times. When I was in Bible college, the guy who was the golden boy of the campus, he was like the faculty were so proud of him. He was going to be the up-and-coming big-time missionary that was going around the world. Well, he married a friend of mine. And they ended up getting a divorce. And she told me that on their wedding night, he pulled out a revolver and he said, the Bible says, obey your husbands. And I'm just going to tell you, if you ever disobey me, I'll kill you. And she said, I was literally, not only was he being physically abusive, I was in fear of my life. I mean, you can't sleep in a bed with a gun in a bedside table that the man you've just married has threatened to murder you. So she went to one of our professors, who was the guy that everybody loved, and he was like, and she said, what should I do? And he said, well, you can't divorce him. He actually said to her, it would be better for him to kill you so you could go to heaven, instead of living in abuse. I mean, instead of divorcing him and then you go into hell. I said, Priscilla, did he really say that? She said, it's a verbatim quote. So that's why I'm over explaining. When I say let them, I'm not saying you shouldn't speak up for yourself. I'm not saying you should be somebody's doormat. I'm not even saying that you should always be silenced with your opinion. I do believe in exchange of ideas and that sort of thing. What I'm talking about is the preoccupation that people have with other people to where it affects them. They can't even see their own path because all they can look at is the other person. Y'all still with me? Yes. You think this is valid? You think this is worth it? Okay. Yes. All right, so this is her quote. This is kind of a synopsis of the book. what she says, the let them theory will teach you that the more you let other people live their lives, the better your life gets. And the more you let people be who they are or feel what they feel or think what they think, the better your relationships will be. Learning how to let adults be adults has changed my life, and it will change yours too, because when you finally stop giving your power to other people, you'll see how much power you truly have. May I also say, I clearly believe in influence. The word metron means sphere of influence. So I'm not saying we can't influence other people. But I was thinking about this week. I was out walking, and I thought, I'm not sure I ever have converted anybody. I think my sheep know my voice. Do you understand? I don't think, like, if you came into my ministry and you felt changed, I think you were already on that. You were already on that path, and it was your seeking that led you, which is why when I said certain things, you would maybe say to yourself, I might not have ever said that, but that feels right to me. But I don't think I changed you. Do you understand? I think what I probably did is confirmed where you were already going. And I believe that so much. When Jesus said, a stranger they will, y'all come on in. He says, a stranger they will not follow. He was talking about pastors. And he said, I'm sure you know this. I've shared it with you before. But what shepherds would do in that part of the world, they would, at nighttime, because it gets, even in the desert, it gets really cold at night. So different shepherds would get together and combine their flocks for the night. And they would go into, the sheepfold was a place, it was like a U-shaped structure where all the sheep would come in and they'd just be glommed on top of each other. And because that way it was safety in numbers. Like it was more, you could protect the door to the sheepfold. And, but each one of them had a verbal signal that flock recognized. And so the next morning, after they're all a pile of wool out there, and you think, well, how are you going to find yours? Because they all knew each other, the voice of their shepherd. And he could either a whistle or something. And that flock would go follow that shepherd. It's a very... it's an amazing thing. My dad had, I can't do it, but there's a really loud whistle he could do, and I could hear it miles away. And I'd be out playing with my friends, and I'd hear that, and I'd say, oh, I have to go. Because, especially if he whistled a second time, I'm like, I'm going to be in trouble. And I remember my friends would say, how did you hear that? I'm like, believe me, I'm tuned in. Even to this day, when I'm asleep, I'm like, did I just hear a whistle? I grew up in a house, just truth be told, nothing was ever at ease. Do you know what I mean? It was like always... if you didn't grow up in a powder keg situation, you don't know what I'm talking about. But for some people, home was not really a refuge or a sanctuary. It was, am I being too real? It was for any number of reasons. And my point is, I was very tuned into that sound. I don't believe that you're tuned into. I think it's safe to assume I'm your pastor if you're here today. I don't think you're hearing it out of fear. I think you're hearing whatever it is that I do. It's because it located where you were on your journey. What's that? I appreciate that. Avery added and set us free. It's a powerful thing when you find somebody else saying something that you thought nobody else said, or that nobody else knew. So I think what the point of this is to not set yourself up to keep being unnecessarily vexed by things you have no control over. And my point of bringing up about the whistle is, I think, does anybody ever convert anybody? I don't know that you do. I think what you can do is influence somebody, and your deep calls into their deep. And I don't know if Tricia minds me quoting her on this, but she said something the other. We were talking on the phone, and I've thought about it a lot since then. And she said, "I know your journey is different from mine. However, I watch you go through certain things, and it's very much like Thomas saying, unless I see his scars and put my hand in his side." She actually said, "I feel like I put my hand in your side and feel your scar." I was like, I got to go. That's really deep. I got to process that. But I understand what she's saying. It's like our journeys are light years away from each other, and yet they're not. Do you know what I mean? Struggle is struggle. Process is process. Some things are more imminent. Like if you're dealing with a disease that could be life-threatening. Yes, everything's ratcheted up a notch. But the Billy Joel song, he says it's the next, he sings about these different types of music. It's new wave, da, 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 but it's still rock and roll to me. And meaning, you can call it whatever you want to call it, it's rock and roll. Everybody's journey is somewhat similar. It manifests differently, but there's certain basic things. Like even yesterday, we ended up watching Tyler Perry's new movie, Straw, with Taraji P. She's a brilliant actress. I won't give you a spoiler. The ending wasn't what I was expecting, but it was. But the acting is incredible. Even Sherry Shepherd, it was incredible. And I was reading on the feed today, and these are African Americans writing this. Like, I wish Tyler Perry would write about something besides down and out black women. I'm like, well, I don't think you know the body of his work. I mean, he actually's done comedies and a lot of stuff. That being said, there's a lot of single mothers that rings true. And even though, I've been a single father, but I never to the extreme. I've never dealt with the stuff that her character was dealing with. But I could also see, I've had a really bad day before. Like there's this one day where one thing leads to another, where she gets evicted and her car gets hit, and it nearly seems over the top. Like, oh, that many horrible things couldn't happen in one day. Like, yeah, they can. And one thing triggers another thing, and the whole point is, it's called straw because a thing finally happens. It's the straw that breaks the camel's back. And even though I'm not a single black female trying to raise a child with disabilities, and I've never been evicted. I've been through some stuff, and there's a part of us, like, if you really hear somebody's story, there's a part of you, even if your experience has been entirely different, it should make you empathetic. The true definition of a psychopath is somebody that doesn't have the ability to empathize. I remember I watched this documentary, this was years ago, about soldiers who had been in the SS who worked under Hitler. And now I'm sure they're all dead by now, but at the time of this documentary, they would have been like in their 80s or something, and none of them spoke English. They were being interviewed through an interpreter. And somebody said, all these years later, do you have any regret about the number of people you murdered? And you'd think an elderly person would have said, yeah, we were deluded or whatever. And to a man, every one of them said, no, they were Jews. It's like something about that was so chilling to me that really, wouldn't you think there'd be some evolution years later after that monster had died and maybe the spell was broken but the anti-Semitism was still there. And you think, how could you be that disconnected with the human experience? All right. Let me show you where I'm going with this. Y'all still with me? Yes. All right, this is Luke chapter 10, verse 41 through 42. This is in the NIV. I'm going to show you 3 instances. Now, I don't have siblings, so I only observe this dynamic through my children. For the most part, my children get along with each other very well. But, life is real, and over the years, they've once had an issue with another. I'm like, y'all are adults. I can't referee this. You know what I mean? Because when you're a parent of several children, when you defend one to the other, it comes across too much like you're playing favorites and you're not seeing the other one's points. So I have to. I don't know if you parent your adult children this way or not, but I have to be neutral about this. That maybe I can throw you some, try to see it from their vantage point, but I'm like, y'all have to figure this out. I've seen the dynamic. Ken went through a thing with his brother a couple of years ago, and I'm like, you got to figure it out. It wasn't coming from Ken; it was coming from the other side, but it was very difficult for him. So, 2 of these stories are about actual siblings, and one is about 2 guys that might as well have been siblings because their dynamic was the same. All right. This first one, this is the prodigal son story. No. This is Mary and Martha. Sorry. Mary and Martha and their brother Lazarus were like Jesus's homies. To the point, I'm not suggesting Jesus was gay, but he clearly had a bromance with Lazarus. He just did. Because the disciples, when they came to tell him that Lazarus was sick, they said, the one you love is sick. I mean, I'm not saying they were hooking up. I'm saying there was something special with them to the point that Jesus wept at his, he took it very personal that Lazarus had died, okay? And so there's one time that Jesus periodically would preach at their house. And you know the story. Martha was more of a micromanager. She was the person in the kitchen who made stuff happen. And Mary she was just a different vibe. I can relate to this because of my adult children. I know the ones I can ask for help with my mother and the ones it's just not innate in them to be caretakers. And the ones who are helpful don't enjoy the ones who aren't. Is that too much information? No. And I'm like, they are who they are. I can't fight this battle. Either help me out with this or I'll go hire somebody. But, can I just tell you, for good or for bad, some people are not natural caretakers. And you can be upset about it all you want, but I've said this for years. Maybe there's some exceptions to it, but I don't think there are. Over the years, when I've gone to funerals of an elderly person and watched the dynamic of their children deal with the death of the person, I nearly always can spot which one was the caretaker. Because the one calmly sitting on the front row, staring off into space, looking really tired, was the one who was there changing diapers and doing all that kind of stuff. The one that came in late and screaming and trying to climb in the casket. My God, my mama. Like, oh, you're the one that was never here. Okay, I got you. And there may be an exception to it. I've been doing this my entire life. I've never seen an exception. The one who's the caretaker is very calmly saying, she's in a better place. Y'all feel me? What?
I cannot get a week off because nobody will come back.
The one who wants to go take a nap somewhere. Like, oh, you've been the caretaker. But if that's not in somebody, you can, let me tell you something. Your family members, and this has been reiterated in my mind in the last few hours, they are who they are. And if you get upset with them manifesting who they are, guess what? That's on you. Because you knew you already knew that's who they were. And just because they fulfill your prophecy over and over again, there they go again, it doesn't change the fact that's who they are. So, I don't have, I'm not a woman who had a younger sister, but I completely get Martha's point. Because if you'd grown up, let's say these are two sisters that grew up together, one was, more of a take charge person, and the other one was just kind of, in la la land. If you'd had a lifetime of that, you could see how this would be triggering. Because not only was Mary not helping, she was blending gender roles here. Because this is a time when men were the ones who stayed out and listened. The women were silent in the kitchen. So not only was Martha saying Mary's being a bad sister or she's not helping me out, she's also acting like a man. Who do you think you are? Like, that doesn't seem controversial to us now, but at that time, this would have been unheard of. Why is a woman sitting here? Why aren't you out there in the kitchen? We're going to be hungry in a little bit. You're not supposed to be. Why are you even here? So Martha comes to Jesus and says, this is your meeting. And Mary's your friend too. I can't, if I say something to her, it's going to start a whole thing. If you would just say, have you ever thought, if I could just get so-and-so to say that to them, that would fix it? No, it wouldn't. I can't tell you over the years, as recently as a month ago, somebody who I only know through Facebook, who said, I have a gay grandson that I'm concerned with. I really think you could help him. Okay, fine. I've had hundreds of those kind of requests. But then she says, I need you to reach out to him, but please do not tell him that I asked you to do it. If he thought I had put you up to it, he would be furious. And I said, I don't mind reaching out to the guy, but why am I supposed to say, I mean, where's the connection? I mean, because can I keep it real? If he's a young man, an older man contacts him on Facebook and says, I just saw you on here and felt like I should reach out to you, that doesn't sound like ministry. You know? So she's setting me up to say, I need you to reach out to him, but don't. Well, I said, I'm going to have to tell you, if that's the requirement, I'm going to have to say no. And she didn't like that. I said, you either trust me or not. And she said, all right. So I messaged him. We're not Facebook friends, but, you can see somebody on Messenger. I said, your grandmother is concerned about, I had to be truthful. I said, your grandmother's concerned about you. Here's my number if you want to talk, and here's a link to my book. It might have been. He didn't even respond. So sometime later, she said, did you reach out to him? I said, yes. And I said, I'm going to screenshot you what I sent him. Because I don't want the guy to commit suicide or something, and then you call me and say, if you had only reached out, like, don't do that to me.
Right.
That's very unfair for you. So I'm going to give him, you know, you can look on my page and see all my stuff. You know, I'm a credible source if you want to reach out. I've done that before, and people have called, and it was fine. On this one, I could tell he's not feeling that from his grandmother, and certainly not from me. And to put me up like, no, don't do that. So Mary is saying, Jesus, I need you to be bad cop here. And say, you know, Mary, get out there in that kitchen. And Jesus, you know, I'm going to say I love this about Jesus, but frankly, it's irritating. In the Gospels, Jesus never said what you thought he was going to say. And he was never on your side. Ever. Just when you thought, he's always leaving you, you know, disoriented. Because just when you thought, well, surely he'll see my point. Oh, hell no. He doesn't see your point. He not only doesn't see your point. I mean, think about the woman who washed, the harlot, the sex worker who washed his feet with her hair. And the man who had thrown the party was like, you know, he was trying to be discreet. He's like, I'm not kicking her out, but, you know, enough. It's getting awkward in here. I mean, whatever she's doing with you over there in the corner, it's getting we're getting a little creeped out by it. And then he says, if this man were really who he says he was, he would tell her to, you know, put her hair back up on top of her head and get out of here. She was washing his feet with her hair, which is a very, if not erotic, at least sensual activity. And Jesus, this is a man who's thrown a party for Jesus, who's a Pharisee. This would have been a good career move for Jesus. What Jesus should have said, and he didn't ask me, what Jesus should have said is, sweetheart, thank you very much, but in honor of the man who has thrown me this party, you know, let's finish this up. Here's my card if you want to reach out to me later. But right now, this is not neither the time nor the place. This is inappropriate. Wouldn't any one of you support that? I would have. You know, you're making my host uncomfortable, and this isn't my house. You know, Jesus, he just goes into the temple and my temple, like your temple. And you hear he says, this isn't my house. The man's thrown me a party. You know, enough. Thank you very much. Jesus lets it keep going. Says, I know what she does. I didn't just fall off a turnip truck. Whether Jesus ever had sex or not, he at least knew what sex was. I know what she does. Then, I mean, this is like really bad manners. He sets her up as the example to a man who at his own expense has thrown him this event. And Jesus says, by the way, you didn't wash my feet. I came in here, you didn't. What was the deal with foot washing? Well, when people walked and you're virtually barefoot for most of the year. I mean, you got sandals on or whatever. Foot washing would be a really practical thing. And when you walk into somebody, if you didn't wash people's feet when they came in, your house would be filthy. Yeah. So people lived very close to, you know, that was not unusual for them. So it was more like a common courtesy. It's like saying to somebody, do you need a restroom to freshen up? Or something? You know, it's like, it's something you would offer to people. And Jesus says, I came in, you didn't wash my feet. She is not, you know. I mean, if I were the Pharisee, I'm sorry, I wish I could. I love the hooker. But I got to tell you, if I were the Pharisee, I'd be like, no, you did not. Not only let this, I won't say any other words, take as long as she jolly well pleases to do her thing, whatever it is she's doing. You let it go on, and then you embarrass me in front of the people. This is my house. I paid for this soiree, and now she is the hero of the story. And nearly every time Jesus would do that. I'm always so happy I wasn't one of the 12 disciples, because I completely get their point on everything. I'm like, Jesus, I got to admit, like when Jesus says, that's the greatest faith I found in Israel. If I had left everything to follow Jesus, I might take issue with that. Like, seriously? You meet this older, clearly gay man who is worried about his boo, wanting you to pray for him, and now that's fine. That's fine. That's his life. Live and let live. But you're going to say that little interaction you had with him where he says, speak a word only, that's the greatest faith you found in all of Israel? Seriously, Jesus? You know, it might have taken a little bit of faith for us to drop our nets and follow you. We had lives. Be glad you didn't work for him. Can you imagine? That's why, when he finally preached his pièce de résistance, unless you eat my flesh and drink my blood, and most of his staff just said, I'm out. That is too bizarre. And Jesus didn't try to explain it. Oh, you don't understand, I'm speaking metaphorically. He's like, y'all leaving too? And the ones who remained are like, no, we're not leaving. Yeah, we'll eat your flesh and drink your blood, Jesus. Like, all right. So Jesus says, Martha, Martha. Just the Martha, Martha, to me, sounds so sarcastic. Oh, Martha, Martha. The Lord answered, you are worried and upset about many things. Do you see how demeaning that is? It's like, no, Jesus, I'm not just being, rhymes with witch, I'm not being that. I seriously need help. I'm the one in the kitchen. This is our house. We're the hostesses, and she ain't hostessing. That's all I'm asking. Is just she can get a recording of the service later, but right now, I need somebody to help me with these tables. If you are a doer or a producer, don't clueless people just drive you crazy? That they don't see what needs to be done.
Yes. And they said, why didn't you tell me that needed to be done? Oh my God. Like you didn't see it standing right there.
When I first started what became Church in the Now, I had no staff. And we rented a building. That's why when I rave about my tech team, it's sincere. Because I know what it's like to try to do this. And even when I started the church, it was much bigger than this. But we rented a facility with a place that used it like the Rotary Club. So I would have to go in, especially like on Wednesday nights. I didn't live in Conyers. I would drive out there. I would have to collapse all the tables and set up all the chairs and set up the sound system and set up my electric piano so I can lead the worship. And when it was over, I tore everything down. I did it all by myself before and after. And it was hot. I started in May, so like in the summertime, it was hot. So by the time I was ready to preach, I was sweated down. And I learned if you've ever collapsed those tables, there's a way, I could do it. I could have that room, nearly to the point, if you don't know what you're doing, just let me do it, because it's going to take me so long to explain to you where everything goes. I'll just do it myself. But I remember one time I was running late. I've told you this before. I was running late and I was trying to get everything done because I like everything. If I say I'm going to start at 11:11, I start at 11:11. I'm not just being rigid about it. It's just like that to me is an agreement. I told you we were going to start at this time, so that's when we're starting. And I was running late, and this guy came in who I had known. And I thought, oh, thank God. You know, this is a night I could use some help. And I'm tearing these tables down and setting up chairs and trying to set up equipment that I didn't know how to do. I mean, my first sound system had the receiver out of my stereo. You know, I was using my own stuff. And he's following me around going, the Lord sent me to tell you will go to all the nations of the earth and you're going to preach like this grandiose prophecy about my worldwide. And I'm looking at him like, shut up. Either, you know what, I don't need a prophecy right now. I've got church in 20 minutes. Do you not say, what in your mind doesn't connect you to see that I'm not sitting in an office somewhere, I'm working my rear end off. Why wouldn't you think to say, do you need any help? Because actually I do. No, God sent me out here. I'm like, no, he didn't. and if just send him back. I'm not thinking about. Tell him I'm too busy to go to all the world right now. I've got church in 20 minutes. I hate that. You know, meanwhile, I'm thinking, despise not prophesying. No, I'm despising him just a little bit. Like, could you prophesy and help me? And for people that's why, you know, when I don't always say this at funerals, but I say it a lot. When I speak to the people who are there, those of you who are not part of the family, can I just tell you, don't stand around and ask if there's anything you can do. Because you just either do something, you either know them well enough to do what needs to be done. And you know, even when my dad died, there were some things that people did that it's like, that's not really the help that I needed, but it was E for effort. You know what I mean? It's like I remember somebody ordered a meal for us, and it was a lot of effort to go on and pick out a menu and stuff, and you know. But I thought, no, you know what? They paid for this. It was really sweet of them. I'm going to do it. But if you don't know, just make a casserole and show up at the front door and say, "Here's," you know what I mean? Like, because there's the people that do stuff, and then there's the people saying, "If we can do anything, let us know." Can I tell you something? They're not ever going to help you at all. As soon as they say, "Let me know if I can," because the people who know you just know this is what needs to be done, and even if I'm not totally sure, I'm still going to do it because I'd rather just do something for you that would help you out than to say, you know, you're making me work too hard for this. You understand? Yes. It's like sometimes when people ask me, especially back in the day, we want to take you to lunch. I'm like, oh crap, what is lunch? And that's not always. I know I've got some lunch things coming up, so if you're watching and you're one of them, I'm not aiming this at you. I'm saying back in the day, lunch always meant bad news. It means I've got to sit here and choke down food for an hour while you tell me, you know, why you're going to another church. I'm like, just go. I mean, but do you know what I mean? Like, I get it. You know, I've heard these things before. I'm just trying to. Sweet Jesus, I'm just trying to, you know, follow a calling that I think was on my life and that I didn't ask for. And, you know, some of the things people would tell me, I think, if you only knew the personal struggle I'm going through to be this guy you think I am, and you're telling me all that, like, the fact that I show up clothed and in my right mind and preach ought to be enough for you to say, you know what, he's not perfect, but he's probably doing the best he can, and maybe I won't take an hour of my life to tell him everything that's wrong with it. but back in the day, even when somebody just wanted to take me to lunch, I'm like, just take me to lunch. Because sometimes people would say, I want to take you to lunch. Okay, fine. Where do you want to go? Wherever you want to go. I don't know. You're inviting me. Well, what's your favorite restaurant? I don't have a favorite restaurant. I eat out all the time. Like, if you got someplace you like, take me there. Sometimes somebody will take me somewhere. I'm like, oh, I didn't know about this place. It's cool. Even if it's a place I like. I mean, you can't. This is back before Facebook, but I'm like, look online. See, you know, you see the kind of places I like. And there was some people would say, do you mind driving? and didn't tell me until lunch. And I mean, I had four kids. I'm like, you know what? My car's not really. I can't tell you how many times I've had to go clean out my car and take car seats out because somebody's trying to take me to lunch to tell me how bad I am. In my car. I was like, why am I doing this again now? Well, I just wanted to spend some time with you. Okay. You know, if you want to go, just throw out a suggestion. All right, well, then let's go there. It's fine. It's just lunch? Okay, great. Yay. Good. You invited me, so I'm assuming you're picking up the tab. Yay. And I learned this one time. This kind of a high roller guy took me out to eat because he took me to lunch because I bought stuff from his store and he wanted to honor me as a client. And so he paid for lunch. And I said, can I get the tip? And he said, don't you ever say that. He said, when a mafioso or important guy it's insulting. They're taking you out. They're taking you out. Got it. I never offered. Again, if you're buying my lunch, you're tipping. What's that got to do with this? It's all tied together. It'll all come. My sermon's like a Seinfeld episode. It all comes together in the final reel. Martha, Martha, the Lord answered, you are worried and upset about many things, but few things are needed, or indeed only one. Mary, here again he goes. He's not saying, Martha, you just need to understand how Mary's wired. No. Look, don't complain to Jesus about somebody because he'll take their side. Jesus will never take your side. Let that be a lesson to you. Mary has chosen what is better and it will be not taken away from her. You got to be kidding me. If I were Martha, I'd be like, you know what? Y'all come out here and pluck this chicken. Because back in the day, you had to chase a chicken around the yard, pluck it. I mean, you didn't just call Uber Eats and have them deliver something. If I had been Martha, I'd be like, you know what? Martha out. Y'all figure it out. If Mary's chosen such a good part, why don't y'all just get yourself a little miracle? Maybe she's got some loaves and fishes you can multiply. Because I ain't doing this no more. Do you understand what I'm saying? These are human beings. And I think Martha's got now I don't know the full dynamic between these two sisters, but I think Martha, a valid point. Why wouldn't Jesus say, it's fine, but no, she's chosen the good part, implying that Martha didn't. What?
I got mine and gone, get yours and come on.
You know? All right, here's the next one. This is John 21:21. This is Peter and John, and they're not brothers, but they had sibling rivalry. This is when at the end where Jesus gives this, I mean, really dismal prophecy about Peter in his later years. He's like, you're not gonna see where you're going. You're going to be led around. You would think if Jesus laid a prophecy on you like that, you would say, "Is there an alternative? Like, can I do like Hezekiah and turn my face to the wall?" And you come up with, can we improve this scenario? Because you just made aging sound really dismal. All Peter could think about is, what about John? What about John? Which shows you how preoccupied he was with John. Peter says, Lord, and what will happen to this man? Jesus, if I choose for him to remain till I return, what difference will this make to you? You follow me. Again, seriously, Jesus? I get the horrible prophecy. And John laying on your chest at the Last Supper. La, la, la. And here's the third one. Again, this is Luke chapter 15. This is the prodigal son. I appreciate that the father received the prodigal back, but I get the older brother's point. This is NIV. Meanwhile, the older son was in the field. When he came near the house, he heard music and dancing. So he called one of the servants and asked him what was going on. Legitimate question. Let me just say this. I have to fill in the, read between the lines of this. But if this was a situation where sons were working for a father and one of them just flakes and leaves, don't you think that the other brother has to take on more of it? It's like he's got to do double time now because little brother's out laying with hoes and I'm spending his inheritance and I'm the one still trying to keep this thing together, trying to maintain the family business. Do you understand? He's not just being a jerk. He's like, seriously? He just split and I've been doing my job and his, and now we're throwing him a party? Really? He says, your brother has come, he replied, and your father has killed the fattened calf because he has him back safe and sound. The older brother became angry and refused to go in. I get it. Don't you want to come to the party? Actually, no. I still have stuff to do that I've been having to do since he split. What's he doing? You look out on the dance floor and he's busting a move. And if you had already had an issue with a brother and you're like, really? He never has consequences. Do you understand why David would say things like, fret not yourself because of evildoers? Or why do the godless prosper? Because isn't it easy to look at some people and think, does it ever catch up with you? Do you ever pay for anything? I mean physically pay. I mean, like, do you ever? Is there a price for anything that you do? He says, your brother has come, he replied. Your father's killed. Okay, he was angry and refused to go in. All right, go ahead. So his father went out and said, don't worry, we're doing an intervention with him, and we've got him in mandatory financial counseling because your brother is bipolar. And so we're trying to meet him at his level. So just go easy on him because he's not like you. And, we feel like he's at risk. So if we don't do this party for him, it could really bring him down. And so, but we're on it. We're not going to celebrate him too much. As a matter of fact, we're celebrating. No, that's not what the Father says at all. Jesus never says what you want him to say. So his father went out and pleaded with him, but he answered his father, look, all these years I've been slaving for you and never disobeyed your orders. I've never given you a minute's trouble. Yet you never gave me even a young goat so I could celebrate with my friends. But when this son of yours who has squandered your property with prostitutes comes home, you kill the fatted calf for him. Wouldn't you think the father would at least say, you know what, you got a point. I didn't see it from your perspective. Maybe I need to, bring it down a notch. He says, my son, the father said, you are always with me and everything I have is yours. But we had to celebrate and be glad because this brother of yours was dead and is alive again. He was lost and is found. Thank God for the story. I love the story. It's the ultimate story of reconciliation. Because it says, even though the prodigal came back to the father, it says the father saw him afar off and started running toward him before this guy ever made. Remember, he was going to make a case and say, I'm not worthy to be called your son. But he wasn't allowed to do that. The father already met him, putting a robe on his back and a ring on his hand. So on that level, if you're the prodigal, this is a wonderful story. of restoration. If you're somebody who's really played by the rules and never seem to be noticed or compensated for it, acknowledged for it, I can see this guy's point. All right, let's move on. Here's another Mel Robbins quote. The source of your power is not in managing other people, it's in managing your response. Can I tell you something? You can't control anybody. You can't really change anybody. The best you can hope for, because people are, I'm not saying people can't change. People do evolve. I will give you that. But like even in relationships, like romantic relationships, marriages, if you're going to marry somebody because you think you're going to change them, you're sadly mistaken. The best you're going to get is if there is behavior that you don't like and they're willing to meet you halfway because of their love for you. If they say, I'm not going to do this because I love you, that's fine. That doesn't mean they've changed. It means they're acknowledging you. You understand what I'm saying? And that's just, I'm not saying you shouldn't write your political stuff online. I get it. Can I just tell you, it's not going to change your opponent's viewpoint. I'm not telling you not to do it. Thank God we still live, at least for now, in a society where free speech is allowed. I'm not telling you not to make your point. I've done it in the past too. But just be realistic about what it's going to accomplish. We were talking about today because he lives in a world where he works where you can kind of figure out where they are politically and sold out to it to the point, if you make an opposing viewpoint, like they don't, you know what I mean? Like there's certain people I voted for that I think, no, I like the guy, I voted for him. I'm not a devotee of his, and I'm not blind to, there's something like, I wouldn't have supported that. But, he basically embodies my values, so yeah, I'll vote for him. But then there's a cult following that sees no matter what, sees no problem with anything. To the point it's kind of scary, people believe what they want to believe. So you have to learn, dissent is important. We have to live in a country where people have other people. I'm glad we have a two-party system. I like there's two ideologies. There's some things that I hear another political side say that I think, well, I get it. That's a valid point. Yeah. I think I don't have a good answer for that. That is problematic. I wouldn't have handled it the way you did by embracing that candidate, but you have a valid point. Got it. I'm glad I can still say that.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? But the idea of making converts, people double down. Not just throwing her under the bus, I'm just saying this is how she's wired. Monday night, for my mom's birthday, she finally got to meet her great-granddaughter. And usually, and she did think she was beautiful, but her first words were quoting statistics about how many babies are aborted every year. And I'm like, that was your first response? Like that was your go-to place. But I think, well, she has a steady diet of that, and that's where she's at. So I'm just like, all right. And my daughter-in-law, to her credit, was like, I know. It's like, Sophie, you're amazing. And in Mom's mind, she's defending life. And I'm like, well, this isn't we're not at an abortion clinic. I was just, it's just a little birthday party for you. I said, sorry, Sophie. But then later, once we got past that, everything was fine-ish. All right, please take that off. Let's see. I think we're past that one. We should be up to number 7 by now. Which I don't even remember what number 7 was. Oh yeah, Shannon Alder. I like this. This quote. It says, "When you let go of control and commit yourself to happiness, it is so easy to offer compassion and forgiveness." I agree. This propels you from the past into the present. Agreed. People who are negative spend so much time trying to control situations and blame others for their problems. Committing yourself to staying positive is a daily mantra. Agreed. That states, I have control over how I plan to react, feel, think, and believe in the present. No one guides the tone of my life except me. Now, may I say that a few hours ago I completely violated that. However, I showed up today and still told you that's the way it should be. I'm not calling any of your adversaries Satan, but there's something, when Jesus says, Satan has come to me, but has nothing in me, there's something very empowering about that. When you can say, I don't, like if you ever had a breakup with somebody and you keep arguing and fighting over stuff that shouldn't even matter at this point. Like this is like old information. And then you realize this is just what we do. This doesn't even accomplish anything. Somebody's got to stop it. Somebody's got to say, you know what? We've already made these points lots of time. Why don't we go find other people to make miserable now? I think we've done all the damage we can do to each other here. Let's move on. And do you understand what I'm saying? Where you get caught in this holding pattern of I say this and they say that. I say this and they say that. And it's all the time. You know? Like every time there's a school shooting, I turn on the news, I'm like, wait for it. And like, here's people on this side saying we've got to do something about gun control. And people on this side saying this is not the time or the place to be like, y'all say it every time. Everybody, and I'm not saying you should just give in and not have legislation. I'm just saying people think what they think. And the closest you're going to get to being able to coexist with it is to try to have a spirit of understanding. Understanding does not mean condoning. Understanding means, why do you think this way? Why would that be your first response? And you have to realize not everybody's motivated exactly like you. Not everybody sees what you see. Not everybody has your value system. That's why when you're trying to judge somebody by your value system, you're just wasting your time because they don't see the world the way you see it. So you can make your points all that you want. They don't care. That's not how they see the world. Everybody's operating out of their worldview. And a lot of people are operating out of their theology. If you think it's the end of the world and there's no hope for the world, and the only way the world's going to be saved is just going to be God's got to take the good ones out and burn the rest of them. If that's your purview, it's going to bleed into everything. It's your politics, everything. If you think other people are ruining what you have, that's your purview. That's how you see things. All right, I think I've taken this as far as I can. Anybody have any feedback? Did you get anything out of it? Do you relate? I mean, you probably know this, but don't you have to be reminded fairly regularly? Like, Jesus said, Martha, Martha. You have to say to yourself, Jim, you are troubled about many things. And just realize this other person, that's their journey. Go with God. Vio con Dios. Because if you keep, what? Go somewhere else. Go with God or whoever asks you. I will tell you this, and I believe this and have said it to every single person I've ever counseled with. It's better to want something you don't have than have something you don't want. And if you can't be in a happy relationship, then be happy by yourself. I will even say, if you're not happy by yourself, you're not going to be happy in a relationship anyway. Because for years I've heard people say, if I just had somebody I knew I'd be okay, and the next counseling appointment would be, if I just didn't have to deal with him, I'd be okay. And the thing is, there's times, like this morning, I just went over and hugged him because he puts up with a lot. And I didn't say anything. I just held that hug for a minute, and he knew I was just saying, thank you for not judging me. Bishop, did you really lose your cool? I've done so good for 4 months. 4 months of, I've got a new attitude. And then, because I'm not telling you all that was said, but some of those old triggers could just take a little time travel. So what?
I'll be back for 4 months ready to call somebody. I need help.
All right, let's all stand. God help us. I hope I wasn't too real today. And I'm not trying to disrespect the parent. It's just my journey.
Too real beats too fake.
Some said it was the voice of God. Others said it was only thunder. We forgive all. We forgive ourselves. We forgive the past. We move into the now. We learn from our mistakes. A just man falls 7 times and gets up again. We move forward, onward and upward. And just because we had a little setback doesn't mean we're out of the race. Forgetting those things which are behind, we press on to the mark of the prize of the high calling of God, which is in Christ Jesus. Let's play the outro, please.
Contributing to Metron is quick and easy. You can give anytime using any smartphone. Text the amount you'd like to donate to 404-620-5044. You will then receive a notification that you successfully completed your donation. You may also visit bishontthenow.com and click the support tab to give there as well. When you contribute to Metron, you're also donating to the charity or organization of the month. Thank you for your investment into Metron.
If you're making a check, make it JESM. If you have cash, pay it forward. But who said that? Y'all drank the Kool-Aid.
I mean, I'd rather hear about life as it is than all the other stuff.
I appreciate it.
Fake stuff,
Yeah,
because, you know, we come in here real.
yeah.
We come in here real, and we expect something out of you, and sometimes you have to pull it from us, so it's a two-way street.
Preach, sister.
And I think everybody had some of that today. I mean, it was many people that I talked to on the way in had that kind of feel.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Some of that today.
Everyone
We
had
all
a
some
little
of
bit
that
of
this
that.
week.
Yeah, so I think.
Interesting.
What you did.
Didn't need no stick of sugar today.
And I gotta say too that when Loretta pulled up what you're gonna be talking about today, speaking, like everyone's like, this is just what I need, you know.
Really?
About the judgment. Oh yeah, absolutely, because I do try every day not to judge. Like when I hear people say things negative about other people, I try not to judge. And like you say, it's an everyday thing. You have to do this every day.
Yes.
Every day. So I really got something out of it, you know, you spoke to my spirit, and I just thank God. I thank God for your word, for the message, I received it, and I'm living it.
I appreciate that. Well, we're made overcomer by the word of our testimony. And the word of your testimony involves a test. You know? Good. I appreciate that. Yeah. All right. We're all going to have a great week. We're all going to have a great day. Let's bring the stress level down. Whatever nonsense you've been through, it's just a thing. It's like the weather. Let it pass. The sun is still shining. Go make it happen. Go create a beautiful day for yourself and a beautiful new week. All things are possible to them that believe. God bless you. Go in peace.